So you go to the doctor with arm pain. You find it difficult to lift your arm like this, and like this. He shoots an MRI or an X-ray. He says to you he sees little damage. If you're younger, he may say it's possible muscle spasms or impingements. If you're older, he may say to you it's probably arthritis. What do you expect? Either way, I'm going to show you today the 3 reasons why your arm is limited in this movement, and why at any age you should be able to lift your arm completely over your head unless there's a bone damage in there someplace. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Muscle Repair Shop. My name is Butch Phelps, and today we're going to talk about the 3 reasons that most people cannot lift their arm up over their head without severe pain. I want to start off by saying, let's understand how this shoulder mechanism works to begin with. Young or old, it doesn't matter. I get people every day who come to my office who have a hard time lifting their arm without pain. And as they're younger, maybe they play tennis, they can't get their arm to come back behind their head in their tennis swing. But the key thing is understanding that whether you're younger or whether you're older, it's the same problem, regardless of the age of your body. So when you think about a shoulder and you lift your arm up, most people when they complain of arm pain or shoulder pain as they lift their arm, they get pain shooting down their arm. They think, and so do most practitioners, that the problem is here in the deltoid. The reality is this is the symptom. In most cases, when you look at the arm, as you lift the arm up, the outside chest muscle here can get tight. And it can get tight for several reasons. 90% of what we do, we lean forward. We look down towards the floor. We're using our arms on a keyboard, driving our car, eating, and so forth. And most of what we do, we grab something in our hand and we pull it back, and that exercises these muscles here in the chest. Now, as these muscles get tighter here, when you try to lift your arm up, the muscle here cannot release. That overworks the muscles here on the top side, causing pain to shoot down the arm because they're overworked. So the first thing we want to do is learn how to free these muscles up into here. And again, like I've said in all of my videos, this is a daily thing. When you think of self-massage and stretching, compare it to eating food. No matter how much you eat every day, you're going to be hungry tomorrow unless something is wrong, right? Same thing happens with the muscles. Every thought you have, every feeling that you have, and every movement that you do will tighten your muscles. And so the daily self-massage is imperative. The daily stretching is imperative for different areas of your body. In this case, we want to work on the outside chest muscle. If you'll lift your arm or put your arm even next on an armrest, if you can't lift it any higher, if you have it here on a table or an armrest, take the hand, go to the front side of the armpit here, you'll feel the chest muscle coming from your arm right out into your chest. And most likely, it's going to feel hard, although for you, you've got nothing to compare it to. But what you can understand is that as you start to squeeze here, this becomes sore. And what we want is this not to be sore or painful. So we're not going to try to squeeze the blood out of it. We're not trying to press it here till it's nothing. But as you start to put a little pressure here, you might feel some discomfort or pain. If you do that, once you start to just feel it, stop increasing the pressure, let it stay there, maintain that, breathe out and allow the muscle to relax, okay? Once it relaxes and the pain stops, go to another spot. Do the same thing again. Go to another spot. You have two major muscles in the chest. You've got the pectoralis minor here and the pectoralis major coming across this way. And the pectoralis minor, which is the smaller of the two, is the one that limits people so much in lifting their arms. That's the first thing that happens. The second reason that you can't lift your arms is on the back side of your body. Now we all understand we have a shoulder blade back there, and in that shoulder blade, the arm here, the humerus up here, goes into a socket into that shoulder blade. And that also, that shoulder blade wraps around and connects up here around into the collarbone. And so when you lift your arm up like this here, the shoulder blade then has to be able to rotate for you to be able to lift your arm, or you're going to feel the same pain shooting down your arm as you lift your arm up. This is a little more complicated than this, because back here on the back side, you have 3 muscles that are running on top of the shoulder blade itself, and these can become very sore. And the reason for that is that as the chest starts to shorten or tighten, as we use it during the day, it causes the shoulder to round in, and it always shows up as pain back there when you touch it. Secondly, you have muscles that run between the shoulder blade and your spine. They're called rhomboids. And those muscles can get tight, and when they get tight, it limits the rotation, so that when I lift my arm like this, the rotation in my shoulder blade cannot rotate because those rhomboids between the spine and the shoulder blade are tight. We have to soften those muscles, and we have to lengthen those muscles, and that's what I want to start to show you today on how to do that. Again, you can do that with a tennis ball, and I'll show you how to do that later. Use that tennis ball against the wall and soften those muscles. The third reason is weakness. For so many people, they haven't lifted their arm like this in years, and their muscles literally have gotten weak. And when they do that, it becomes very difficult to try to lift your arm back up over your hand. The range of motion as to how far you can reach back or how quick you can come up like that has a lot to do with stiffness. But just the sheer fact of lifting the weight of your arm can be too much for the muscles up here in the shoulders itself. And I'm going to show you some little tricks you can do with that as well today on this. So let's get started with that. And I'm going to head over to the doorway, and I'm going to show you how to stretch out the chest. And then we're going to move forward into the tennis ball massage on the back side. And then I'm going to show you some tricks you can do to strengthen your shoulders as well. So let's go. Okay, this particular stretch you can do in any doorway or any corner of a wall that's pointing outward. In other words, you don't want to go to where 2 walls come in together, but you want the points to be more towards you. I prefer a doorway just to make it simpler. So I'm going to show you this 2 different ways. I'm going to show you one with my back to you, and then I'm going to show you one with my front to you so that you can see from both sides what I'm talking about. So typically what we want to do here is we want to take our arm and put up to the wall. Now, when your shoulder is tight over here, taking your hand all the way up to the top will be impossible, because if you could do that, you wouldn't need to do this stretch. But if you're here, let's say your shoulder can only come here, put your arm there into this wall, and then since it's your left arm, you're going to use your left leg and step slowly through and start to stretch the front side of the chest here as you come up. Now this is going to be a little slow process, but as you step forward, just taking 1 step forward, you're going to breathe out and hold this stretch for 5 seconds, and then release it and come back. What you'll find is over time, this arm will slowly start to come up higher and higher, and you can step more and more through that door. So let me show you this from the front side. So if I'm on the front side here doing this, you notice my arm is only about here. Optimally, you'd want your arm to do this, okay? Realize, or at this point, you can't do that, so bring the arm back down to about into here. And in this case, I'm using my right arm, so I'm going to use my right leg, and I'm going to step 1 step forward and just gently come forward and feeling the stretch right in here, okay? Again, as I come forward, I'm going to breathe out, hold that for the 5 seconds, and do that 10 times. We're going to do this every day, and if you can do it 2 or 3 times a day, it will not be too much. But the point is I want you to be able to step through and get where your arm comes up higher and higher so you can lift this back up. There used to be a thing that they did where you would actually walk up a wall. That's okay to do too, but in this particular case, what we want is by that 1 step through, you start to give the brain opportunity to release that muscle. Again, I would do this, hold for 5 seconds, breathe out as you stretch out, and I'd repeat this 10 times. I would definitely do this every morning and every night, but if you can do it in the middle of the day, I would do it then also. Let's go on to the tennis ball. Okay, now we're into the tennis ball area. We're going to use a tennis ball for the back massage. It's going to be upper back, shoulder blades, that area. And number one, I'm using just a plain old tennis ball. In fact, one of my tennis players, she brings me over her old tennis balls that I use them to actually give them to people to use at home. So we're sort of like reusing them again. But the most important thing is that the tennis ball is firm enough yet soft enough not to bruise your skin or damage your walls. I put it in a sock so that if I drop it, I don't have to chase it. And number two, when I'm working on my upper back, I can just throw it over my shoulder and lean against the wall. Now, I know some of you go out and you bought these special balls that vibrate, and I don't know, they talk to you, they have knobs on them and all kinds of things. You don't need that. All you need is just a plain old tennis ball. In fact, you could go to most stores and buy a 3-pack of tennis balls for less than $5. But anyway, that's all you need to do here. When you're doing this, throw the ball over your shoulder. You're going to lean back against the wall here. Now, I'm working on top of my shoulder blades, and then I'm going to work down my back between my shoulder blade and the spine. And what you're going to find is you're going to hit certain spots that you'll feel absolutely nothing in some cases. And that's okay. That means that spot is fine. And then you'll hit spots that's going to be really sore. Now, the temptation is I'm going to push really hard, and I'm going to push this out because that's how we've all been taught about muscles. Number one, you're probably going to put a hole in your wall, so don't do that. And then number two, the more you push in and the more pain you create, the more the brain is going to contract the muscle trying to stop the pain. Don't do that. There are many therapists who've hurt their hands by not coaching people to breathe out and relax when they press hard in on sore muscles or tight muscles because they believe that their hands are going to make that person's muscles release. That is not a true statement. The only person who can make your muscles release will be you allowing your brain to relax the muscles. And that's important that you remember that in every video that you watch that I do. Only your brain can relax those muscles. So when you use the ball back here, you find a spot that's sore. I mean, we're right at the beginning of where, oh, okay, that's a sore spot. Not, oh my God, that's really hurting. No. Oh, that's a sore spot. Stay there with the ball. Maintain the pressure. The ball's job then is done. All the ball's job was to identify what place on your back or what spot on your back is sore. So maintain the pressure so that you constantly send a message to the brain that says, don't forget, this place is sore. Now you're going to breathe out. You're going to stay there for about 5-6 seconds, breathe out, allow the brain to let the muscle relax. Now in some cases you may have to do the breathing out a couple of times, 2 to 3 times. If after 3 times you still can't get it to release, move to another spot. Let that spot release and then come back. And what you may find is when you come back, that muscle may release much easier. You're going to work all over the shoulder blade and all around the upper back, especially between the shoulder blade and the spine and above the shoulder blade into the upper shoulder areas there. I do this all the time. In fact, I had a doctor one time say to me, this was like his American Express card. He never left home without it. And that's the way you'll feel about it too. Now, it looks easy, but here's the caveat to this. It's much harder than it looks because you have nothing to compare it to. If you could walk around and touch 10 people's backs every day, all of a sudden you start to feel a difference in whose back is soft and whose back is hard, and you would realize it wouldn't take a lot of pressure before somebody would go, ow, don't do that, that really hurts. You don't really have that advantage, so you're really working, trying to figure out a new normal, because right now, however your back feels at this moment is your normal. So keep in mind that you're trying to learn a new normal without anything to compare it to. If you'll be persistent and you'll do it on a consistent basis, you'll get through that, and then you'll be amazed at how much this little ball can change your life. Okay, I said to you there were 3 things that usually cause the inability to lift your arm without pain. The first one we went over in the door frame was for the outside chest. The last one we just went over with the tennis ball is to soften the muscles on the backside so that the muscles on the backside can work and rotate that shoulder blade. And now number 3 is going to be weakness. How do you overcome weakness? Now when you think about it in our lives, just like looking up to see the sky, we rarely lift our arms straight up over our hand. Last time we did that, we were probably in school and the teacher asked us a question and we would raise our hand. But we don't really do that during the day. And so over time, the muscles will start to atrophy. Remember the old saying, use it or lose it. And in this case, you lost it. But you can find it again, and that's the important part. And you can do this at home, even sitting in a chair. So if you're at home and you've got like little hand weights like this here, you can literally sit in a chair and practice lifting your arm. It could be a pound, it could be 2 pounds. In fact, in the beginning, for some of you, you might just sit in the chair and practice just lifting the arm, holding it for 2 to 3 seconds, and coming back down, and just start practicing lifting your arm up. Once that becomes easy to do 10, now you can take a 2 pound or 3 pound weight. In this case, it happens to be a 5 pound weight, but you can just lift your arm and come up to start the lifting this way. Now, for the younger people out there who you've got strength, you have mostly tightness, my guess is you'll probably find that once you free up the tightness in the front and on the back side of the shoulder, you may find that your arm will come easy up over your head. And again, for a lot of younger people, they're already lifting weights, so strength is not really an issue. But for those of us like me who are over 60 years old, strength sometimes can become an issue. So what if you don't have one of these guys? Well, I bet you have a book at your house, and you can get a book, whatever size you can lift. Once you get to the point that you can easily lift your arm this way or this way 8 to 10 times, take a book in your hand, lift. All you need is weight. The only difference in this and this is that this weighs 5 pounds, this probably weighs 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds. And so all you're doing is you're just lifting that weight and practicing, so when you need to pick up something with your hand, you can do that. I would do this probably once a day, and I would do it each day. Probably do a set of 3 sets of 10, work your way up to 3 sets of 10. Even if you're starting with nothing, that first set of 10 may be enough to tire you out. Work your way up to 1 set of 10, 2 sets of 10, 3 sets of 10. And then you can do it where you have your hand in this position, you can have your hand in this position, and you start to strengthen those muscles in your shoulders. What will happen is, as you reduce the stiffness, as you increase the strength, now taking your arm all the way up to where you come from here, all the way up to here, will become very easy. Takes a little bit of work, a little bit of consistency, and a lot of persistence. But if you really want your arm to go back to work and work well, if you do these 3 things, I promise you, you'll be impressed with the range of motion increase that you'll have. Most movement issues that we have in our lives, when we're younger as well as older, it begins with our ability to overcome the stiffness. When you're younger and you're lifting weights and you're running around and doing things, your muscles can get stiff from that. So the flexibility becomes just as important as the strength training. But the same is true as when you're older. The only difference is when you're older, you probably haven't worked out in a long time, and you probably don't do all the movements that you did when you were younger, so the muscles get stiffer. Think of an old car sitting in a garage that's rusted up. And what you want to do is, as you start moving, you break off that rust and you increase the lubrication in your joints, and then you can get back into lifting weights or lifting anything like a book, for instance, just to build the strength in your body. It works the same whether you're 25 or you're 75. It doesn't really matter. And so the key here is movement, making sure your strength is in good order, making sure your flexibility is in good order, and lastly, the food you eat, eating a low inflammatory diet will help relieve some of the stiffness as well. But you need all 3. If you do one and not the other 2, you're going to wind up in trouble. So my thing here is you got to do all 3. There's flexibility, there's strength, and then there's diet. So if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please subscribe down below, ring the bell, send comments to your friends or leave comments for me rather, and then send this and share this with your friends. And for now, see ya.